Did you know that Lord Vader actually had a system in place to avoid killing any more children after his Youngling Massacre in Revenge of the Sith? And what was the dark solution that he came up with instead? Hello again, Acolytes, and welcome back to the archives. The slaughter of the Younglings in the Jedi Temple has gone down as one of the worst things that Vader has ever done, which is interesting, since it's one of the first things he has done as a Sith Lord. It was such an unspeakably horrible act that not even Vader's own mind was fully able to reconcile with it. Although his devotion to his new empire and the dark side was strong, it bothered Vader greatly, and Vader even made a silent promise to never do it again. He might be responsible for families with children dying in Warzone, or doing an orbital bombardment, but if there was ever a moment where a child was right in front of the Dark Lord and no one else around, Vader would not kill them. Instead, he had a much different solution in mind, one possibly more twisted than simply ending their life. So join us as we open a holocron from the archives and talk about how Vader wrestled with the slaughter of the Younglings, and what the Dark Lord decided to do from that point forward. When Anakin marched up the stairs to the Jedi Temple with the 501st, he was still very new to the dark side. Palpatine later admitted that he set Anakin to the temple both as a test of devotion and to usher him irrevocably to the dark side. This was why he tasked his new apprentice with personally killing younglings instead of just letting the clones do it. In the novel The Dark Lord: The Rise of Darth Vader, we get to see Anakin's mind and his thoughts, exactly what is going through his head during this massacre. On the way there, Anakin wondered if he was really going to be able to go through with this. Killing Jedi he could do just fine, but in his mind, they had wronged the Republic. They were a threat to the galactic peace that he would restore. They would never understand his decisions to save his wife, and Anakin believed that the Jedi would do everything they could to stop him. Anakin's feelings on the Jedi were clear, but as for the children, the younglings, it required the dark side to intervene, to hiss a justification in his ear. It said to him, "They are orphans. They are without family nor friends. There is nothing that can be done for them. They are better off dead." With that in mind, Vader did his darkest deed, and yet, the book tells us that many weeks later, when the Dark Lord revisited the temple in his new armor, recalling this memory curdled his blood. As an evil Dark Lord of the Sith, Vader became the killer of younglings, but he never truly sat right with what he had done. If they were simply casualties of war while he was focusing on another threat, that would be different. They were right in front of him though. They were defenseless, helpless, confused, and too young to understand the implications of what was happening. Skywalker's power in comparison to them was like a sun next to a campfire. There was no honor in this battle. It barely even registered to Vader that his lightsaber was moving before he had done what he had done. And yet, he hated himself for every moment of it. In Revenge of the Sith, during a very brief moment of clarity on Mustafar, we can see him crying as he acknowledges what he has done. Even over 20 years later, after the events of Bespin and The Empire Strikes Back, Vader remembers delivering the report of the youngling slaughter to Darth Sidious. In Darth Vader 2020 number 7, Vader revisits these feelings, exploring how vile and cruel he became so quickly, and he made a vow within his heart to never do what he did at the temple again, and that if children could be spared, from that point on, they would. A small piece of Anakin was peeking from behind the mask of Vader. But Vader was still the Emperor's enforcer. He had to kill who Palpatine needed him to kill, and ensure that there are no threats to the Empire. Vader knew all too well the power revenge has over someone, even at a young age. If Vader were to murder someone's family but leave the child living, they would undoubtedly try to seek revenge against the Dark Lord and the Empire. So Vader had a new solution to this problem. In his eyes, mercy. But in the eyes of anyone else, this was far more deranged than if he had just killed them there. We learn with his new policy through a member of Crimson Dawn. In the canon comics, Kira takes over the crime syndicate known as Crimson Dawn from Maul. She then reshapes it into something of a freedom fighters coalition without the restriction of the rebellion. Since Kira calls together many factions who had been wronged by Vader and Sidious, including the Knights of Ren, they band together against their imperial overlords. Among this group was a woman who led a group of assassins, calling themselves the Orphans. Their name is appropriate due to what each of them had happen to them at the hand of Vader. In Crimson Reign number 1, we learn the backstory. The leader of the orphans explained that Vader killed her parents right in front of her, and after this, he made her swear an oath that she would never seek revenge. Nothing here happened today, nothing at all. This was Vader's horrible realization and new policy. Anytime that he would have to kill a child's family, he would force them to swear to him that they would never take revenge and would move on. It seems that to the Dark Lord, threatening a child with an inch of their life and taking away their agency to seek justice is a better alternative than Vader outright butchering them. Perhaps to the Dark Lord, trauma was a better answer than death, and he lived with this so that they could live as well. This was of course also coming from a man who used pain for power and expected that others would do the same. After seeing how much Luke cared for his friends on Bespin, he called him weak and deeply desired to get revenge on Owen Lars for making his son that way. This was no son of Anakin. In a twisted sense, it was likely that Vader may have even felt that he was doing these children a favor. After all, he took body parts off of each of the Inquisitors in order to teach them loss, an ancient dark side ritual. This lesson meant to give them some kind of pain to draw from their power, to fuel their battle. The loss he inflicted on the children, combined with making them swear an oath to never take revenge, created many monsters in the making around the galaxy. These people were to grow up in a ruthless and deadly environment, evolving into killers, using the pain that Vader gave them as drive. But behind the mask, beneath all the layers of darkness and Sith-driven ideology, there was Anakin Skywalker behind this decision, a tiny, quiet spark imprisoned beneath the mask of Vader. But this small voice pushed through and could not bear to have himself be responsible for the deaths of more children. Vader may have been twisted, and his intention was to do horrible things, but because of his deep regret over what happened in the Jedi Temple, he was unable to bring himself to kill younglings in cold blood, even if it meant he had to alter and traumatize them for the future. But with this canon addition is born an interesting conversation. Which is ultimately the better version of Lord Vader? The Vader who still has a little piece of Anakin left within him, a piece of a Jedi that can influence his decisions for the better, even if so slightly. Or was Vader always meant to be a deranged, psychopathic dark side monster, a machination of the evils of the Jedi and Sith as one, who would not hesitate to kill any children in Legends? Unlike most Sith Lords, Vader's decisions are rarely straightforward in their nature, since there are always two beings inside of him trying to make these decisions. Even in the bleakest points in Vader's history, the spirit of Anakin lives on, even if it's just by a small margin. Hayden Christensen had some amazing insight on this subject in an interview. In his words, Anakin is always there, but he's been reduced to a small percentage of Vader's total being. By the time the Kenobi series takes place, in canon around 10 BBY, he is 98% Vader and 2% Anakin according to Hayden. But as small as that 2% is, at least it always exists and can push its voice through when it matters most. The unfortunate thing is though, is that 2% of Anakin's desiring to save the lives of children is filtered through the 98% of Vader, the cruel monster bent on only serving the Empire. So while the lives of the children were spared, they are forced to swear an oath that forever changes the course of their future, and alters their very souls, making them monsters just like Vader. But what do you think of Vader's new policy in Star Wars canon? And had you known how much regret Vader had for the massacre of the younglings before this video? Let us know your thoughts down below, my friends. And as always, may the Force be with you, and I hope you're having a phenomenal day.